You know, I probably should have what is it? Streamlabs.com. There we go. Nobody's here yet. Okay. Okay. Well. What am I doing here? Whoops, wrong. Okay. Uh, Here we go. No, actually. Two zero seven two one zero. Okay. Let's see how to duplicate this. God damn it. Okay. Paste as a reference. Excuse me. I'm trying to duplicate this thing. No, it's not window capture. The browser. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Transform. Copy transform. Transform. Paste transform. Okay. All right. So it's been a while. Yeah. Well, let's just see. Let's see how much of any units I still have. Okay. Damn it, who do I send this to right now? Okay, what's gonna be the first? Jesus Christ. Okay, so I think I did all right. Chat rooms. Uh, damn it. You know what? What am I doing? Where am I going? Here we go. Okay. I think I am going to start as soon as I review my chat rooms one more time. You know what? Okay. I got nothing else to review. So, okay, that's the dragon right there. A Nightwing Guide to the Dragons of Imperia. Imperia. The Sandwings. Um, Sandwings are pale gold or white scales, the color of the desert sand. Poisonous barbed tail, forked back tongues. They can survive a long time without water, poison enemies with the tips of their tails like scorpions. Bury themselves for camouflage in the desert sand and breathe fire. Okay? Since the death of Queen Oasis, the tribe is split between three rivals for the throne: Sisters Burn, Blister, and Blaze. Oh boy. I just stretched a little bit. Okay. Okay, I thought that was Discord for a moment. Um, Alliances. Burn fights alongside Skywings and Mudwings. Blister is allied with the Sea Wings, and Blaze has the support of most Sandwings as well as an alliance with the Ice Wings. Okay? So Mudwings are thick, armored brown scales, sometimes amber, and the gold underscales. Large, flat heads with nostrils on top of the snout. They can breathe fire if warm enough and hold their breath for. Excuse me. Fucking stiff. Oh god. Stick drift. Okay. Nope. They gotta get these controllers fixed. They can hold their breath for up to an hour, blend into large mud puddles. and usually very strong. Yeah, they're usually very strong. Okay, so Queen Morhen is their queen. They're currently allied with Burn and the Skywings in the Great War. Their Skywings are red, gold, or orange scales, enormous wings. They have powerful fighters and flyers, and they can breathe fire. The queen is Queen Scarlet. They're currently allied with Burn and Mudwings in the Great War. Um, excuse me. Sea wings are blue or green or aquamarine scales. Webs between their claws, gills on their necks, glow in the dark stripes on their tails, snouts, underbellies. Kind of like a tribal thing. They can breathe underwater, see in the dark, create huge waves with one splash of their powerful tails, and are excellent swimmers. I mean, yeah, they're allied with Queen Coral, currently allied with Blister in the Great War. Okay. Um, it's good. Where's this? Raise. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. The ice wings are with silvery scales like the moon of pale blue, like ice, ridged claws to grip the ice with forked tongues and tails narrow to turn thin, and they can withstand sub-zero temperatures and bright lights, exhale a deadly freezing breath. They are allied with Blaze and most of the Sand Wings in the Great War. Their queen is Queen Glaciers. Rain Wings. Scales constantly shift. Okay, well, come on. Colors. They usually shift colors, usually bright like birds of paradise. And they have prehensile tails. They can camouflage their scales to blend into their surroundings, use their prehensile tails for climbing, but they have no known natural weapons. They have a queen named Dazzling, and they are not involved in the Great War. The Night Wings, purplish black scales and scattered silver scales on the underside of their wings, and like a night sky full of stars, forked black tongues. They can breathe fire, disappear into dark shadows, read minds, foretell the future. Queen is a closely guarded secret, and apparently they are too mysterious and powerful to be part of the Great War. Okay, but if we're talking about in the perspective of Okay, okay, okay. The Dragonet Prophecy. Oh, hello. Yeah, I'm just gonna be doing this as an audio book kind of treatment, unless it's yeah. Sorry, say that one more time. No, I said I'm giving the book an audio book treatment on Discord right now. I mean, you know what? Well, right now I'm on the parts of the prologue where it's talking about the Dragonite prophecy, and for that, I'm actually I wouldn't worry about it too much. N- no, don't worry too much about it. Okay?
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So we have the Dragonite prophecy now, and that happens to be reading out the like a poem. When the war has lasted 20 years, the Dragonites will come. When the land is soaked in blood and tears, the Dragonites will come. Find the sea wing egg of deepest blue. Wings of night shall come to you. The largest egg in mountain high will give you the wings of sky. For wings of earth, search through the mud for an egg the color of dragon blood. And hidden alone from the rival queens, the sandwing egg awaits unseen. Of three queens who blister and blaze and burn, two shall die and one shall learn. If she bows to a face that is stronger and higher, she'll have the power of wings of fire. 5 eggs to hatch on the brightest night. 5 dragons born to end the fight. Darkness will rise to bring the light. The dragonites are coming. And then I'm seeing, you know what? Screw it. Hold on a second. Let's see. Gonna do this until, you know, let's see. We have the prologue over here. A dragon was trying to hide in a storm. Lightning flickered across the dark clouds. Vitor clutched his Vitor, maybe I don't know, clutched his fragile cargo closer. If he could make it over the mountains, he'd be safe. He'd escaped the Sky Dragon's palace unseen, and the secret cave was so close. But his steps had not been as stealthy as he thought, and eyes as black as obsidian were already tracking him from below. The enormous dragon on the mountain ledge had pale gold scales that radiated heat like a desert horizon. Her black eyes narrowed, watching the gleam of silver wings far up in the clouds. She flickered her tail, and behind her, 2 more dragons rose to the sky and dove into the heart of the storm. A piercing shriek echoed off the mountains as their talons seized the moon pale ice dragon. Bind his mouth, the waiting dragon ordered as her shoulders dropped Vutur on the slick, wet ledge in front of her. He was already inhaling, ready to attack quickly. One of the soldiers grabbed a chain from the pile of smoldering coals. He threw it around the ice dragon's snout, clamping his jaws together with a sizzling smell of burning scales. Shiver, he, Vitor let out a muffled scream. Too late, the sand dragon's forked tongue slithered in and out of her mouth. You won't be using your freezing death on us, Ice Dragon. He was carrying this. Queen Byrne, said one of the soldiers, handing her a dragon egg. Byrne squinted at the egg through the downpour. This is not an ice wing egg, she hissed. You stole this from the Skywing Palace. The Icewing stared back at her. Hissing steam circled his snout where the hot chains met silver cold scales. You thought you got away unnoticed, didn't you? Burns said. My Skywing ally is not a fool. Queen Scarlet knows everything that happens in her kingdom. Her lookouts reported an Icewing thief sneaking away, and I decided finding you might add some violence to my boring visit. Burn held the large egg up to the light of the fire and turned it slowly. Red and gold simmered below the pale, smooth surface. Yes, this was a skywing egg about to hatch, Burn mused. Why would my sister send you to steal a skywing dragonet? Blaze hates any dragon younger and prettier than she is. She thought for a moment as rain drummed on the ledge around them. Unless the brightest night is tomorrow. Her tail flickered. Oh my god, I keep on mispronouncing this. Her tail flicked up like a scorpion's. The poisonous barb inches from Shiver's eyes. You're not in.
Just relax. You're doing well. You can slow down a little.
Okay.
I sorry, I have noticed that you are like hyperventilating a little and like you're trying to like raise your breath and then you're kind of getting out of steam because of this. And like it's kind of easy to sort of breathe yourself into an anxiety so like you can slow down. We're here to listen to you so like you can slow down. You're not losing us.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sorry if that was unprompted, but
Look, it's not a professional stream, so to speak. But anyway, thank you.
I know, like I was there once, so I'm just kind of sharing what helped me on my journey because I
Yeah.
kind of see you like I see a lot of the young me in myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Okay. So thanks. Okay. Let's see. So I was at nearly the parts that said, "Why would my sister send you to steal a Skywing dragonet? Blaze hates any dragon younger and prettier than she is." She thought for a moment as rain drummed on the ledge around them. Unless the brightest night is tomorrow. Her tail flicked up like a scorpion's. The poisonous barb inches from Vitter's eyes. You're not in Blaze's army, are you? One of those insipid underground peacemongers. The talons of peace? Said one of the soldiers. You mean they're real? Burns snorted. A few worms crying over a little blood. Unwrap his change. He won't be able to freeze us until his scales cool down. The enormous sand dragon leaned closer as her soldier pulled the chain away. Tell me, Ice Dragon, do you really think in that pompous old Nightwing's prophecy? Haven't enough dragons died for your war? Snarled Vitter. Okay, wincing at the pain in his jaws. All of Pyria has suffered for the last 12 years. The prophecy says, I don't care. No prophecy decides what happens to me. Burn interrupted. I'm not letting a bunch of words or baby dragons choose when I die or what I bow to. We can have peace when my sisters are dead and I am the queen of the Sandwings. Her venomous tail dipped closer to the silver dragon. Rain pattered on Civitar's scales. He glared up at her. The dragons are coming, whether or not you like it, and they'll choose who the next Sandwing queen should be. Really? Byrne stepped back and turned the egg slowly between her talons. Her forked tongue slipped in and out of her smile. So, Icewing, is this egg a part of your pathetic prophecy? Victor went still. Burn tapped lightly on the eggshell with one long talon. Hello? She called. Is there a dragonet of destiny in there? Ready to come out and end this big bad war? Leave it alone. Victor choked out. Tell me, Burns said, what becomes of your precious prophecy if one of the five dragonets is never hatched at all? You wouldn't, he said. No one would harm a dragon egg. His blue eyes were fixed desperately on his talons. Oh, whatever. No wings of sky to help save the world, Burns said. What a sad, sad story. She began tossing the egg from one front claw to the other. I guess that means you should be very, very careful with this terribly important little. Oops! With an exaggerated lunge, Byrne pretended the wet egg was slipping through her talons, and then she let it fall over the side of the cliff into the rocky darkness below. No! Victor shrieked. He threw off the two soldiers and flung himself toward the edge. Byrne slammed her massive claws down on his neck. So much for destiny, she smirked. So much for your tragic little movement. You're a monster, the Ice Wing gasped, writhing under her talons. His voice cracked with despair. We'll never give up. The Dragonets will come and stop this war. Byrne leans down to hiss into his ear. Even if they do, it'll be far too late for you. Her claws ripped through the silver dragon's wings, shredding them as Zither shrieked in agony. With a swift movement, she stabbed her poisonous tail through his skull and flung the long silver body over the edge of the cliff. The ice dragon's screams cut off long before the echoes of his corpse slamming into the rocks below. Yeah, it's brutal. The Sandwing turned her black eyes to her soldiers. Perfect, she said. That should be the last we hear about that stupid prophecy. She held out her talons so the rain could wash away the glistening dragon blood. Let's go find something else to kill. The three dragons spread their wings and lifted off into the dark clouds. Sometime later, far below, a large dragon the color of rust crawled over the rocks to the broken body of the ice dragon. She nudged his tail alongside and lifted a shard of eggshell from underneath it, then slipped back into the labyrinth of caves under the cliffs. Oh boy. Stone walls brushed against her wings. She breathed out a plume of flame to light her way alongside the dark passage deep into the mountain. I stand with the talents of peace, hissed a voice in the shadow. Crystal, is that you? We await the wings of fire, answered the red dragon. A blue-green sea wing emerged from a side cave, and she tossed the eggshell at his feet. Not that it'll do us much good now, she snarled. Victor is dead. The sea wing stared at the eggshell. But the sky wing egg, broken, she said. Gone. It's over, Webs. It can't be, he said. Tomorrow is the brightest night. The three moons will be all at full for the first time in a century. The dragonets of the prophecy have to have tomorrow. Well, one of them was already dead, Kestrel said. Rage flickered in her eyes. I knew I should have stolen the skywing egg myself. I know the Sky Kingdom. They wouldn't have caught me a second time. Webbs grimaced, scratching over one claw over the gills along his neck. Asha is dead, too. Asha! A spurt of flames shot from Kestrel's nose. How? Caught in a battle between Blazes and Blister's forces on the way here. She still made it with the red mudwing egg, but died of her wounds soon after. So it's just you, me, and Dune to raise the little worms, Kestrel growled, for a prophecy that can never be fulfilled. Let's break the cursed eggs now and be done with it. We'll be long gone before the Talons of Peace return for the Dragonets. No, Webs hissed. Keeping the Dragonets alive for the next 8 years is more important than anything. If you don't want to be part of that, alright, enough. Kestrel snapped. I'm the strongest dragon in the Talons of Peace. You need me. It doesn't matter how I feel about the nasty little dragonets. She eyed the eggshell on the floor, rubbing her scarred palms together. Although I thought at least one of them would be a skywing. I'll find us a fifth dragonet. Webs pushed past her, scales scraping against rock. There's no way back into the Sky Kingdom, brainless, she said. We'll be guarding the hatchery closely now. Then I'll get an egg somewhere else, he said grimly. The rainwings don't even count their eggs. I could take one from the rainforest without anyone noticing. Of all the horrible ideas, Kestrel said with a shudder. Rainwings are wretched creatures, nothing like skywings. We have to do something, Webb said. He hissed as his tail sensed the eggshells skittering across the floor. In 8 years, the Talons of Peace will come looking for 5 dragonets. The prophecy says 5, and we're going to make it come true, whatever it takes. We have part 1 now, underneath the mountain. 6 years later, Clay didn't think he was the right dragon for a big heroic destiny. Oh, he wanted to be. He wanted to be the great mudwing savior of the dragon world, but glorious and brave. He wanted to do all of the wonderful things expected of him. He wanted to look at the world, figure out what was broken, and fix it. But he wasn't a natural hatched hero. He had no legendary qualities at all. He liked sleeping more than studying, and he kept losing chickens in the caves during hunting practice because he was paying attention to his friends instead of watching for feathers. He was all right at fighting, but all right wasn't going to stop the war and save the dragon tribes. He needed to be extraordinary. He was the biggest dragonet, so he was supposed to be the scary, tough one. The Minders wanted him to be terrifyingly dangerous. Clay felt about as dangerous as a cauliflower. Fight! His attacker howled, flinging him across the cavern. Clay crushed into the rock wall and scrambled up again, trying to spread his mud covered wings for balance. Red talons raked at his face and he ducked away. Come on, the red dragon snarled. Stop holding back. Find the killer inside you and let it out. I'm trying, Clay said. Maybe if we could stop and talk about it. She lunged for him again. Feints to the left. Roll right. Use your fire. Clay tried to duck under her wing to attack her from below, but of course, he rolled the wrong way. One of her talons smashed him into the ground, and he yelped with pain. Which luck was that, useless? Kestrel bellowed in his ear. Are all mudwings this stupid, or are you just deaf? Well, if you keep that up, I will be soon, Clay thought. The skywing lifted her claws, and he wriggled free. I don't know about other mudwings, he protested, licking his sore talons. Obviously, but perhaps we could try fighting without all the shouting and see. He stopped, hearing the familiar hiss that came before one of Kestrel's fire attacks. He threw his wings over his head, tucked his long neck in, and rolled into the maze of stalagmites that studded one corner of the cave. Flames blasted the rocks around him, singeing the tip of his tail. Coward! The older dragon bellowed. She smashed one of the rock columns into a shower of sharp black pebbles. Clay covered his eyes and almost immediately felt her stamp down hard on his tail. Ow! He yelled. You said stopping tails was cheating. He seized the closest stalagmite between his claws and scrabbled up on top of it. From his perch near the roof, he glared down at his guardian. I'm your teacher, Kestrel snarled. Nothing I do is cheating. Get down here and fight like a skywing. But I'm not a skywing, Clay thought rebelliously. I'm a mudwing. I don't like setting things on fire or flapping around in circles biting at dragon necks. His teeth still ached from Kestrel's jewel-hard scales. Can't I fight one of the others? He asked. I'm much better at that. The other dragonets were his own size, nearly, and they didn't cheat, well, most of the time. He actually liked fighting with them. Oh, yes? Which opponent would you prefer, the stunted Sandwing or the lazy Rainwing? Kestrel said, because I'm sure you'll get to choose out on the battlefield. Her tail glowed like embers as she lasted back and forth. Glory's not lazy, Clay said loyally. She's just not built for fighting, that's all. Webb says there's not much to fight about in the rainforest because the rainwings have all the food they want. He says that's why they stayed out of the war so far, because none of the rival queens want rainwings in their armies anyway. He says, stop yammering and get down here, Kestrel roared. She reared up on her come on, back legs and flared her wings so suddenly she looked 3 times bigger. With a yelp of alarm, Clade tried to leap to the next stalagmite, but his wings unfurled too slowly and he smacked into the side of it instead. Sparks flew as it, oh, his claws scraped down the jagged rock. He let out yet another howl of pain as Kestrel snaked her head between the columns, seized his tail in her teeth, and yanked him out into the open. Her talons closed around his neck as he hissed in his ear. Well, she hissed in his ear. Where's the violent little monster I saw when you hatched? That's the dragon we need for the prophecy. Gulp. Oh, Clay squawked, clawing at her grip. He could feel the strange burn scars on her palms scraping against his scales. This was how battle training with Kestrel always ended, with him unconscious and then sore or limping for days afterwards. Fight back, he thought. Get mad. Do something. But although he was the biggest of the dragonets, they were still a year away from being full grown, and Kestrel towered over him. He tried to summon some helpful violent rage, but all he could think was, it'll be over soon, and then I can go have dinner. So, not the most heroic train of thought. Suddenly, Kestrel let out a roar and dropped him. Fire blasted over Clay's head as he hit the floor with a thud. The red dragon whirled around. Behind her, panting defiantly, was the sea-winged dragonet Tsunami. The red gold scale was caught between her sharp white teeth. She spat it out and glared at their teacher. Stop picking on Clay, Tsunami growled, or I'll bite you again. Her deep blue scales shimmered like cobalt glass in the torchlight. The gills in her long neck were pulsing like they always did when she was angry. Kestrel sat back and flicked her tail around to examine the bite mark. She bared her teeth at Tsunami. Aren't you sweet? Protecting a dragon who tried to kill you while you are still an egg. But luckily, you big dragons were there to save our lives, Tsunami said. And we sure appreciate it because now we get to hear about it all the time. She marched around to stand between Clay and Kestrel. Clay winced. He hated hearing this story. He didn't understand it. He never wants to hurt the other dragonets. So why Had he attacked their eggs during hatching? Did he really have a killer monster inside him somewhere? The other minders, Webbs and Dune, said he'd been ferocious when he hatched. They'd had to throw him in the river to protect the other eggs from him. Kestrel wanted him to find that monster and use it when he fought, but he was afraid if he ever did, he would hate himself, and so would everyone else. Thinking about what he'd nearly done to his friends made him feel like all the fire had been sucked out of him. He didn't particularly want to be a violent, angry monster, even if Kestrel thought that would be an improvement. But maybe that was the only way to make sure the prophecy came true. Maybe that a monster was his destiny. All right, Kestrel said dismissively. We're finished here anyway. I'll mark another failure on your scroll, Mudwing. She snorted a small flame into the air and slipped out of the cave. Clay flopped down on the floor as soon as her red tail had vanished from sight. It felt like every one of his scales was stinging from the burns. She's going to be so mean to you during your training tomorrow, he said to Tsunami. Oh, no. The seaweed dragonet gasped. I've never seen Kestrel be mean before. That'd be so unexpected and out of character. Ow, Clay groaned. Don't make me laugh. I think my ribs are broken. Your ribs are not broken, Tsunami said, poking him in the side with her nose. Dragon bones are almost as hard as diamonds. You're fine. Get up and jump in the river. No, Clay buried his head under his wing. Too cold. Jump in the river was Tsunami's solution for everything. Bored? Aching bones? Dry scales? Brain overstuffed with the history of the war? Oh my god. There we go. Jump in the river. She'd shout whenever any. Oh my god, the stick drift is way too real. Okay.
Hey, if you need a break, let me know. I
Yeah.
can take over for like a page or two, and like you can flip the pages, and then you can come back when you're like feeling rested a little bit more. And I mean, it doesn't have to be now, but like just heads up if you
Oh,
ever need it.
well, thank you for the offer. All right.
Okay.
So, I'll go ahead and just, I'll tell you when, okay?
Okay.
She'd shout whenever any of the other dragonets complained. She certainly did not care that she was the only one who could breed. Oh, what? Underwater, or that most other dragon tribes hated getting wet. Clay didn't mind being wet, but he couldn't stand being cold, and the underground river that flowed through their cave home was always freezing. Get in, Tsunami ordered. She seized his tail between her front talons and started dragging him toward the river. You'll feel better. I will not, Clay shouted, clawing at the smooth stone floor. I'll feel colder. Stop it. Go away. Ugh. His protest went up in a cloud of bubbles as Tsunami jumped him into icy water. When he resurfaced, she was floating beside him, ducking her head and splashing water over her scales like a beautiful, overgrown fish. Clay felt like a gawky brown blob next to her. She splashed into the shallows and lay down on a submerged rock ledge with his head resting on the bank of the river. He wouldn't admit it, but the burns and the aches did feel better in the water. The current helped wash away the smoky rock dust caught between his dry scales. Still too cold, though. Clay scratched at the rock below him. Why couldn't there be just a little mud down here? Kestrel would be sorry one day when I'm the queen of the sea wings, Tsunami said, swimming up and down the narrow channel. I thought only a queen's daughters or sisters could challenge her for her throne, Clay said. Tsunami swam so fast. He wished he had webs between his talons, too, or gills, or a tail like hers, so powerful she could nearly empty the river with one big splash. Well, maybe the Sea Wing Queen is my mother, and I'm a lost princess, she said, like in the story. Everything the Dragonettes knew about the outside world came from scrolls picked up by the Talons of Peace. Their favorite was The Missing Princess, a legend about a runaway sea-wing dragonette whose royal family tore up the whole ocean looking for her. At the end, she found her way home, and her parents welcomed her with open wings and feasting and joy. Clay always skips the adventures in the middle of the story. He just likes that last part, the happy mother and father, and the feasting. The feasting sounded pretty great, too. I wonder what my parents are like, he said. I wonder if any of our parents are still alive, Tsunami said. Clay didn't like to think about that. He knew dragons were dying in the war every day. Kestrel and Webbs brought back news of bloody battles, scorched land, and burning piles of dragon bodies. But he had to believe his parents were still safe. Do you ever think they miss us? Definitely. Tsunami flickered a spray of water at him with her tail. I bet mine were frantic when Webb stole my egg, just like in the story. And mine tore apart the marshes, Clay said. They'd all imagined scenes of their parents' desperate searches ever since they were young dragonettes. Clay liked the idea that someone out there was looking for him, that someone missed him and wanted him back. Tsunami flipped onto her back, gazing up at the stone roof with her translucent green eyes. Well, the Talons of Peace knew what they were doing, she said bitterly. No one would ever find us down here. They listened to the river gurgle and the torches crackle for a moment. We won't be underground forever, Clay said, trying to make her feel better. I mean, if the Talons of Peace want us to stop this war, they have to let us out sometime. He scratched behind his ear thoughtfully. Starflight says it's only 2 more years. He only had to hold on that long. And then when we can go home and eat as many cows as we want. Well, first we have to save the world, Tsunami said, and then we go home. Right, said Clay. How they were going to save the world was a little fuzzy, but everyone seemed to think they'd figure it out when the time came. Clay pulled himself out of the river, his waterlogged wings heavy and drooping. He spread them in front of one of the torches, arching his neck and trying to get warm. Feeble waves of heat wafted against his scales. Unless, Tsunami said. Clay lowered his head to look at her. Unless what? Unless we leave sooner, she said. She flipped out and over and pulled herself out of the water in one graceful motion. Leave? Clay echoed, startled. How? On our own? Why not? She said. If we can find a way out, why should we have to wait another 2 years? I'm ready to save the world now, aren't you? Clay wasn't sure he'd ever be ready to save the world. He figured the Talons of Peace would tell them what they had to do. Only the three guardian dragons, Kestrel, Webbs, and Dune, knew where the dragonettes were hidden, but there was a whole network of talents out there getting ready for the prophecy. We can't stop the war by ourselves, he said. We wouldn't know where to start. Tsunami flapped her wings at him in exasperation, showering him with cold droplets. We can, too, stop the war on our own. She said, "That's the whole point of the prophecy." "Maybe in 2 years," Clay said. "Maybe it be by then I'll have found my dangerous side. Maybe then I'll be the ferocious fighter Kestrel wants me to be." "Maybe sooner," she said stubbornly. "Just think about it, all right?" He shifted his feet. "All right, I'll think about it." At least that way he could stop arguing with her. Tsunami cocked her head. "I hear dinner." The faint sound of dismayed mooing echoed up the tunnel behind them. She poked Clay cheerfully. "Race you to the hall." She whirled and pounded away without waiting for a response. The torches in the battle room seemed dimmer, and cold water was seeping under Clay's scales. He folded his wings and swept his tail through the debris of the smashed rock column. Tsunami was crazy. The 5 dragonets weren't ready to stop the war. They wouldn't even know how to survive on their own. Maybe Tsunami was brave and tough like a hero should be, but Sunny and Glory and Starflight. Clay thought of all the things that might hurt them and wished he could give them his own scales and claws and teeth for extra protection. Besides, there was no way to escape the caves. The Towns of Peace had made sure of that. Still, part of him couldn't help wondering what it would be like to go home now instead of waiting another 2 years. Back to the marshes, to the swamps, to a whole tribe of mudwings who looked at like him and thought like him. Back to his parents, whoever they were. What if they could do it? What if the Dragonets could escape and survive and save the world their own way? So it's chapter 2 now. That was faster than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it is indeed. But like, it's very interesting too. Is that the one that's going viral recently?
No, you know what? It's been steadily growing popular amongst dragon lovers. It's surprisingly within some circles that haven't previously liked Spyro 2. But you know what? The same thing is that
Mm.
it would actually be the story lover driven Spyro fans at that point. And you know what?
Mm.
More than likely, we'll talk about the Spyro fans more than just the original Spyro fans because there's really not much of a story to the original Spyro games. It's more like a TV episodic
Yeah.
moment you just play through.
Yeah, I think I have seen Wings of Fire like trending on TikTok and like people talking about it. But I haven't read it before and I haven't known any chapters apart from that it features dragons. So
Huh.
and that like people were raving about it. It is certainly really interesting, I must say.
Yeah.
Hello?
To be honest with
Have
you,
you have you read it before? Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
well, you know what? I tried at a point, but the thing is,
Mm.
the reason I couldn't really get into a book like this is because the fact that I just didn't have an audience or anyone that I would have been able to read to. Honestly, I work better. I play better. I do anything better when it comes down to anyone coming by, and then I get to actually read or do anything with someone.
Yo, I just joined. Can you give me like a summary of what you read?
Okay, basically, so we have a prophecy, which is typical for a chosen one kind of story. So, but we're talking about.
Everybody is dragons here.
Hmm.
This is like the most important summary, like number one disclaimer.
Yeah, so you know what?
Sorry,
Basically,
carry on.
we're talking about the story in which For example, we're talking about apparently the character traits of Sea Wings being the most rambunctious, character traits of Mud Wings being the most
Mm.
lazy, laid back if they want to be. Rain Wings are going to be like Roman Empire or Paradise. Sand Wings are usually desert lurkers, and Sky Wings are. I don't really know what to say about Sky Wings when it comes down to.
So it's like
Are they
dragons
like the
are
most vicious, powerful,
by
and
like some sort of element.
Yeah, you know what? Somewhat. But you know what? Ice Wings are among the only ones who are able to breathe an element other than fire. I think it's actually Sea Wings that are not able to breathe fire, but it could be very mistaken. I don't know. It's it, to be honest with you, the reason I'm also reading this is because you know what, there hasn't been a new Spyro game in years, and I thought, okay, you know what, this is what the fan artists that were once a part of Spyro fan concepting dragons are suddenly shifting to. So you know what, might as well. Yeah, there's Wings of Fire series, bro. So anyway, the perspective is actually mostly on a mud wing named Clay. He's going to be big and burly, and he ended up being apparently
no,
quote
no, no!
unquote.
Please don't spoil. No spoilers, please.
No, I'm recapping chapter one. What are you smoking?
Sorry,
Okay,
because like
but
I thought you were talking about what happens next. Sorry.
yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't really been kept up with the Wings of Fire series. So you know what? Let's see. Clay is the main protagonist mostly of the Wings of Fire book one, and at that point, it's talking about Clay having just ended up recovering from the fights that he ended up having with his so-called teacher, one of the Talons of Peace, basically rebels that don't like the Great War that has lasted for 20 years. And it's between almost all the tribes, save for Rain Wings and another tribe called Night Wings. Night Wings are not going to be introduced until I don't know when in this book. But maybe they could be, according to the way I'm reading it so far, the true headmasters of the Talons of Peace. After all, they
Hey,
came up with the prophecy. They are fortune
sorry,
tellers.
sorry to interject, but like when you said the Nightwings never got introduced yet, I just imagine how funny it would be if they would if they would make a crossover and then they introduce the Nightwing and it's the Nightwing from DC and
What?
basically trolling both fandoms at once.
You're so funny, honestly.
No, I just have ADHD and my fantasy is out of bounds.
No, 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 no. Honestly, it's just imagination at that point. Just go ahead and just get that rainbow spread it out from your goddamn hands, and then just do it like SpongeBob.
Oh, like yeah, ADHD.
What? Okay, you
Always
be
something wrong.
mad.
Oh,
Do
hello,
you?
Mr. Skull. We have met before.
Have we?
Yeah, I remember the skull picture.
Oh, I don't remember
I
you.
honestly, I feel like there's like 50 people on this server and that's it. And I keep seeing the same 30 profile pictures everywhere over and over.
Yeah, I usually change mine every month, but I got lazy.
You got lazy.
Yeah, and then I play off like a different personality based on like my profile pic.
Oh,
And then
really?
I can like re-meet people and I tell a lot of lies too.
You sound like my ex-boyfriend.
What?
You had
He
a
was.
horrible
He was.
ex-boyfriend then.
No, I mean like. I mean, yeah, but no, but yeah, but like he did some dodgy things. But what I actually meant is he had an absolute talent of bullshitting people with a straight face, and we would actually. We used to play a lot of group online games back in the pandemic. Like we played a lot of Among Us and like this little game with like the witches, the witch trials. I forgot what it's called, and like
Yeah,
all sorts of games
was
where you had to like convince others with a straight face, and like his poker face was absolutely unmatched, and he would like tell lies with a straight face, and everybody believed him. So and he was like, whenever I tell the truth, people don't believe me, and the more I bullshit, the more people believe me. And we actually did.
that shit is scary, man.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
actually a very bad liar. I play
And it's
that game too. Are
Among
you
Us?
not the Polish girl that lived in Germany?
Yeah. Well, long story short, I was actually born in Czech Republic, but yeah.
Ah, Czech Republic. Who
Yeah,
like fight off for her cat, fighting off her
yeah, yeah,
father?
yeah. Yeah, remember.
I
It was
remember.
beautiful. But yeah. You remember a lot.
IIQ.
Tism?
No, I don't know. I remember a lot. Like I even remember things when I was like 1 year old and stuff. They were
Oh,
forgotten.
sad. I was hoping we would be Tism buddies.
What?
Tism buddies.
Autism.
Well, technically, I have
Just
I
li-
autism
hope
too. It's
not.
funny.
I hope not, man. I hope I'm
just
sane, but never got tested.
just 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 out there chilling and risen with the Tism.
Oh yeah. I got. They thought I was,
Mm,
and then I had like to because I also couldn't speak
mm,
until like properly. Like I could not like pronunciate words properly.
mm.
Um, and I had to like go to get tests and I had no friends and stuff, so I got tested. Then they asked my father, well, we could give him a diagnosis. Do you want to give him a diagnosis? My father said, nah. So they didn't give me a diagnosis.
This is what they did with me when I was like 13 years old, and my school was saying that I have ADHD, and like they sent me to tests, and the tests have shown that actually the tests were kind of not rigged against me, but like I had no no business being good at them because they were all in German, and my German wasn't that great back then, being an immigrant. And I still somehow managed to score way above average, but I was like beating myself up because like I didn't do like half of the tasks they wanted me to do because like I just didn't understand what they were asking of me. And they were like, but yeah, she's very obviously ADHD. Do you want us to diagnose her? And my mom was like, nah, I'm not gonna have people think that my daughter is retarded.
Oh wow.
So here I was failing and flailing and just throwing myself all over the place throughout my teens and my 20s, thinking there's something fundamentally wrong with me and not knowing what, and there's that like I can never find peace. And I had to wait till I was fucking 30 till I got my ADHD diagnosis. Whereas I could have gotten it at 13 and like had gotten help and like started working on it and actually had some good youth. But now it matters more what the fucking neighbors say and whatnot.
Yeah, that's fucked up. But
Yeah.
ironically, I actually think with ADHD, all that Ritalin and weird amphetamines they give the children, I don't know if that's good.
Well, in Germany, they usually send you to like a child psychologist that you have to see every week, and like a speech pathologist, an ergotherapist, and like psychotherapist, and you end up seeing like 2 or 3 specialists on a regular basis who kind of just teach you how to socialize with people. But weirdly enough, those services are only available to kids. Like for most of the part, like in most of the country, like nobody even specializes in like help for ADHD and like autistic adults. So like if you miss that time window where you can kind of still get that help as a kid on like how to socialize with people, how to live in a society, how to form and maintain um interpersonal relationships, and like you turn 18, you're basically locked out of all those uh you know avenues of help, and you're basically fucked, and now you kind of have to figure it out on your own.
That's just fucked.
It's tough out there. Like, and it takes ages, like when you're just trying to figure it out on your own, especially if your like family is fucked up themselves, so like they never taught you from their side.
Hmm.
I don't know what your experience was, if it was any similar.
Well, I wouldn't lie. My experience with my family is that the way, of course, like no family is perfect, right? But actually, I would say, even though we had like a lot of hard circumstances through life,
Mm-hmm.
my family has been something to hold on to and very
Mm-hmm.
stable in the bonds we share with each other.
Oh, that's nice.
Um,
Where you from
yeah,
again?
Spain,
Oh, right.
Spain. But my mother is German.
Oh, I think, yeah, I think you spoke some German, didn't you?
Yes, yes, I speak German, and now I live in Germany.
Oh, you do.
Wepa, let's go.
Are you Spanish?
um, with the heritage, but you know what? Me has venido muy limitado.
Ah, bueno.
Yeah,
Pero entiende?
that part I did. But
Okay. Nice.
seriously though, you know what? I get kind of embarrassed because I got the heritage of Puerto Rico and Ecuador, and yet me has venido muy limitado.
Hmm. Yeah, but
I,
do you understand Spanish?
Look, it's only the limited language that I actually even know of, and even then, I wouldn't really know the dialect alongside European standpoint.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, as
there's
long as you like
relatable.
kind of understand it, you can like just go to like a country that speaks Spanish, and in no time you will learn it. I guarantee
Mm-hmm.
you.
maybe Puerto
That's
Rico,
true.
but there's gentrification there.
That's what happened to me with German. I lived my whole life in Spain, and yes, I could like speak and understand a little bit of German, but it was by no means good. It was like very basic. And 1 year in, I spoke it super fluently. So
Oh, let's go.
if you
Yeah.
got it from like an early age, even if you don't are like 100%, as long as you kind of understand, you will rock that shit.
Mm. Can relate. I'm a heritage speaker of Czech and Russian, And whenever, so like for the first 3 years of my life, I lived in Czech Republic, and then I moved away and never lived there again. And my family stopped speaking Czech with me, so I got stuck kind of like on baby Czech level. Whereas I can understand everything passively, but it kind of takes more effort to like produce, um, you know, produce thoughts and sentences in Czech actively. But whenever I always feel like should I even admit that I speak it, because it's like I feel like I'm so shit at it. But like then again, whenever I come back to Czech Republic and I'm there for like 2 weeks, then I suddenly unlock things that I didn't even know I knew. And like every single day that I spend there, it like speaking just gets easier and easier and easier. And like,
Yeah.
and I actually used to avoid it for like a lot of my youth, because I felt like, well, this ship has sailed because I'm not a baby anymore, and all those fucking stereotypes that aren't even true. And I just realized eventually that if you're a heritage speaker, like, don't give up on yourself. Like, give yourself a chance. Like, just because you're not a kid anymore doesn't mean you're not going to improve and learn it. And just give yourself time and space, really. And also, there are so many young Puerto Rican people in the US. Is that where you live? The US?
New York City in particular.
Well, there you go. Like, the entire world is at home in New York City. Also, I have a really good friend.
Yeah,
If you're ever looking for an apartment, let me know. I'll hook you guys up with each other, because she's got a really sweet apartment where rent is only $500,
oh my god, that is actually really good.
and she's kicking her ex-boyfriend out. So
It's a
guess
free
who's gonna
spot,
be
bro.
looking for
I
a
might,
roommate?
believe me, I actually might want that, because you know what the thing is,
Yeah.
I have to pay $780 a month, and I only work 3 days a week.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Look, believe me, I need to tidy up myself when it comes down to tidying up things in general. But
Yeah.
I've done room renting before with other roommates that had higher standards than my own two roommates actually have right now. I mean, it's not terrible. This place is not
Mhm.
a terrible place to live. It's just
Mm.
pricier than I'm able to afford, even if just by
Yes.
$280, and also
Mm.
utilities. But
Yeah,
then
and
again, I
this
have
way,
subscriptions that I should try to trim down on.
you would have only one roommate and half of the $500 rent.
Yeah, you know what? For what it's worth, I just hope that she could actually go ahead and, well, maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and she's neurodivergent too. She's like ADHD and probably also autistic. So like she understands the struggle. So
All right.
and it's a really sweet location. It's like right in the middle of town center. Like I've forgotten like what district that is, but like it's one of the sort of central ones. So it's like an older
Wait,
apartment, but it's in a
Brooklyn?
very good shape. Like no mold, no cockroaches.
Holy crap.
$500. I was like, I didn't want to believe it. Like, I live in the buttfuck nowhere in like almost rural Germany, and my rent is fucking €800, which is like almost $1,000.
Damn.
So like, I was like, girl, I might actually be moving myself. Well, maybe not this year, but yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
do you want to friend me so that we stay in touch and we can like, if you need it or if you're interested,
Okay, you know what?
like
Go
you
ahead.
can.
Yeah.
I can hook you guys up. Not literally. I mean, like
Holy
whatever,
shit!
whatever floats your guys' boat. But like,
Imagine this is like the start of a fantastic family.
the kids are gonna be dragons.
Oh yeah, dragons.
Yeah, you know what? I'm
But
kind of
like,
curious as to whether or
yeah,
not who's going to be the Spyro like and who's going to be the Wings of Fire. I don't even know what tribe.
just a disclaimer. Just so you know, the rent isn't so low because you're expected to pay the rest in naturalis or something.
Is that how you also say utilities?
You're saving on the waterworks. Okay, accept.
That's so funny. Okay. All right. So,
Okay. Hang on, I'm gonna wave you so that I don't lose you. There you go.
I mean, you could also favorite me on the mobile app.
What do you mean in the favorite in the mobile app?
You don't use the mobile app?
Sorry, I'm a boomer. I
Okay.
am on mobile, but like I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to Discord.
Oh, it's not that you're illiterate. It's just that you just don't know. That's all.
Oh, thanks. I always feel so old because like I feel like I'm the only person who struggles with Discord.
No, don't worry too much about it. Honestly. Anyway,
I was
No, I'm.
I was struggling so much with like even joining this Discord server that I had to basically leave the Healthy Gamer Discord twice, and only on the third time it worked out. I had missed all of the Make It May because of it. Because they were like, I don't know, they were like shadow banning me for a week each for like leaving and coming back. I was like, and I couldn't figure out what I'm doing wrong. And like when it worked, I didn't know what uh, I did differently either. So that was a pretty weird experience, and I still don't know how to like. I would like to, for example, open a channel and like stream something from time to time, just like you are doing, and like I have no idea like where to start, and like tried researching it, but I'm just getting more and more confused by what I find. So.
well, you know what? I can show you the ropes directly with screen sharing if that
Oh,
could.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
I think our interlude is actually done over here. I think now we could actually move on to chapter 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Clay swept the bones of dinner into the river with his tail. The stripped white shapes bounced away in the current. Fires flicked around. Oh my god, flickered this time. It is flickered this time. I've been saying flicked. Go ahead, make fun of me. Fires flickered around the
I'm
edges
not
of.
gonna make fun of you, but I'm just gonna make you. I'm just gonna make you remember something. There was this meme with the wave of my finger and the flick of my dick.
What?
Oh,
I've
God.
never heard of that meme before.
It was,
I've never seen that meme either.
I think it was like a Marvel meme with Spider-Man
Look, you know
from
what?
the
Honestly,
80s.
even though just because I'm a Spyro fan, I accidentally put myself into the furry circles.
And
So
like dick and tail is the same word in German. So like a fire is not, a bodily appendix, so you cannot flick it. So it flickers. But like if you see a body part, then it flicked. Now you're gonna remember it forever.
all right,
It's the mental image about it.
okay. Well, oh my god, the stick drift. Oh my god, I'm actually on a virtual desktop because I don't have a physical Windows PC. All right, let's see. Fires flickered around the edges of the great central cave. Echoing space yawned overhead, dripping with stalactites like huge teeth. The cave dome was big enough for 6 full-grown dragons to fit across with their wings extended. The underground river flowed along the one wall, muttering and gurgling as if it were plotting its own escape. Clay glanced at the 2 small sleeping caves that opened onto the hall, currently empty, and wondered where the other dragonets had gone while he was cleaning up. Aha! Yelled a voice behind him. Clay threw his wings over his head. What did I do? He yelled. I'm sorry. It was an accident. Or the extra cow. Dune said I could have it because Webs would be out late, but I'm sorry, I can skip dinner tomorrow. A small snout poked his back between his wings. Calm down, silly, Sonny said. I wasn't a hang at you. Oh. Clay smoothed his crest and twisted around to look at her, the smallest and last hatched of the dragonets. A pale lizard tail was disappearing into her mouth. She grinned at him. That was my fierce hunting cry, she said. Did you like it? Wasn't it scary? Well, it was certainly surprising, he said. Lizards again? What's wrong with cows? Black. Too heavy, she said. You look all serious. Just thinking. He was glad Kestrel and Dune couldn't read minds like Nightwing dragons. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about the idea of escape all through dinner. Clay lifted one of his wings, and Sunny nestled in close to him. He could feel the warmth from her golden scales radiating along his side. Sunny was too small and the wrong color, tawny gold instead of sandpile like most sandwings, but she gave off heat like the rest of her tribe. Dune says we should go study for an hour before bed, she said. The others are in the study cave already. Dune, the main dragon who taught them survival skills, was a sandwing, and so was Sunny, more or less. There was something not quite right about the littlest dragonet. Not only were her scales too golden, but her eyes were gray-green instead of glittering black. Worst of all, her tail curled into an ordinary point like the tails of most dragon tribes, instead of ending with the poisonous barb that was a sandwing's most dangerous weapon.
Plot twist, she's a shiny.
As Kestrel often said, Sunny was completely harmless. And what good was a harmless dragon? But her egg fit the instructions in the prophecy, so she was their wings of sand, whether the talons of peace liked it or not. Of course, there were no wings of rain in the prophecy at all. The dragonets all had heard, many times over, about how glory was a last-minute substitute for the broken skywing egg. Kestrel and Dune called it her mistake and growled at her a lot. Nobody knew whether the prophecy could still happen with a rain wing instead of a sky wing, but from what Clay knew of sky wings, he was very glad they had glory instead of another grumpy, fire-breathing kestrel under the mountain. Besides, if anyone was likely to mess up the prophecy, it was him, not Glory or Sunny. Come on, Sunny said, flicking him with her tail. He followed her across the central cave. Twisting stone tunnels left off in 4 directions. One to the battle arena, one to the Guardian's cave, one to the study room, and one to the outside world. The last was blocked with another boulder too big for any of the dragonets to move. Clay stopped and pushed against the rock with his shoulder as they went by. He often tried to open it when the big dragons weren't around. Someday it would move when he did that. Maybe not a lot, but even a tiny shift would let him know he was finally getting close to full grown. He felt big. He was constantly bumping into things and accidentally knocking stuff over with his tail or his wings. Not today, he thought ruefully when the boulder didn't budge. Maybe tomorrow. He followed Sunny down the tunnel to the study room. His enormous feet and thick claws thumped and scraped along the stone floor. Even though he'd lived under the mountain his whole life, it still hurt to walk on bare rock. He was constantly stubbing his talons, and they always ached by the end of the day. Tsunami was strutting around the study cave barking orders. Sunny and Clay sat down by the entrance, folding their wings back. A breath of air drifted down from the hole in the roof, far overhead, the only window to the outside in any of the caves. At night, without the distant hint of sunlight, the room felt colder and more hollow. Clay stretched up and sniffed at the darkness that had befallen on the other side of the hole. He thought it smelled like stars. A map of Pirius hung over the wall on the wall between the torches. Tsunami and Starflights loved staring at the map, trying to figure out where their hidden cave was. Starflights was pretty sure they were somewhere under the claws of the Clouds Mountains. Skywings preferred to live high among the peaks, so anything could happen in the deep caves below without being noticed. All this history is so confusing, Sunny murmured to Clay, swishing her tail back and forth. Why don't the three sides just sit down and talk out an end to the war? That would be great, Clay said. Then we could stop studying it. Sunny giggled. Stop that, Tsunami said bossily, stepping at her feet at them. No whispering. Pay attention. I'm assigning parts. This is not proper studying, Starflight pointed out. His black nightwing scales made him nearly invisible in the dark shallows between the torches. He swept a few scrolls between his talons and began to neatly sort them into stacked triangles. Perhaps I should read to everyone instead. Dear Moons, anything about that? Glory said from the ledge above him. Maybe later, when we're trying to fall asleep. Her long, delicate snout, glowing emerald green with displeasure, rested upon her front claws. Ripples of iridescent blue shimmered across her scales, and tonight her tail was a swirl of vibrant purples. If it weren't for Glory, Clay thought, none of them would know how many colors there were in the world. He wondered what it must be like in the rainforest, where there was a whole tribe of dragons that beautiful. Shush! Tsunami scolded. Now, obviously, I'd be the best queen, but let's make Sunny the queen, since she is a real sandwing. She bustled over and pushed Sunny into the center of the cave. Well, sort of, Glory muttered under her breath. Starfight flicked her tail with his. Starfight flicked her with his tail. Yeah, that makes more sense that way. None of the dragonettes ever talked about why Sunny didn't look like a regular sandwing. Clay's guess was that her egg had been taken from the sand too early. Maybe sandwing eggs needed the sun and desert sand to keep them warm until the hatching, or else they'd come out half-baked and funny-looking. Although, personally, he thought Sunny looked just fine. Tsunami tapped her talons on the cave floor, studying her friends. Clay, you want to play the scavenger? That's hardly fair, Starflight pointed out. He's twice as Sunny's size. A real scavenger would be smaller than her, according to this scroll over here. It says that scavengers have no scales, no wings, and no tail, and they walk on two legs, which sounds very unstable to me. I bet they fall over all the time. They like treasure nearly as much as dragons do. The scrolls say scavengers attack. Oh my god. Huh? Lone dragons and steel. Oh my gosh, we know. Glory snapped. We were all here for the fascinating lectures about them. Don't make me come down there and bite you, Starflight. I'd like To beat a real scavenger, Clay said. I'd rip off its head and eat it. He pounded his talons on the stone below him. I bet it would taste better than the mouthfuls of feathers Kestrel keeps bringing us. Poor hungry Clay, Sunny teased. When we're free, we'll go find a scavenger nest and eat all of them, Tsunami promised, nudging Clay with one wing. Sunny blinked at her. When we're free? Oops. Tsunami and Clay exchanged glances. Sunny was sweet and trusting and absolutely terrible at keeping secrets. I mean, after we fulfilled the prophecy, of course, Tsunami said. Clay, be the scavenger. Here, this can be your claw. She swung her long tail in an arc and smashed a stalagmite loose. Shards of rock flew across the cave, and the other dragonets ducked. Clay hefted the sharp rock spear in his claws and grinned wickedly at Scunny. Oh my god, I keep mispronouncing these. Don't actually hurt me, she said nervously. Of course he won't, Tsunami said. We're just acting it out, and the rest of us will be the princesses. I'll be Burn, Glory can be Blister, and Starflight will be Blaze. I had to be a princess last time too, Starflight observed. I'm not sure I like this game. He stretched his wings, and the scattered silver scales underneath glittered like stars in the night sky. It's not a game, it's history, Tsunami said. And if we had any other friends, we could play it differently. But there are 3 sand dragon princesses, so you have to be one, so stop complaining. Starflight shrugged and settled back into the shadows, the way he always did when he couldn't win a fight. All right, go ahead, Tsunami said, hopping onto the ledge next to Glory. Sunny said. She eyed Clay warily. Right, here I go. La la la, Queen Oasis of the Sand Wings. I'm so very important and, royal and stuff. Tsunami sighed. Glory and Starflight hid their smiles. I've been queen for ages and ages, Sunny went on. She strutted across the cave floor. No one dares challenge me for my throne. I am the strongest Sandwing queen who ever lived. Don't forget the treasure, Tsunami hissed, pointing at the pile of loose rocks. Oh, right, Sunny said. It's probably because of all my treasure. I have so much treasure because I am such an important queen. She swept the rocks toward her and gathered them between her talons. Did someone say treasure? Clay bellowed, leaping out from behind a large rock formation. Sunny yelped with fright. No, Tsunami called. You're not scared. You're Queen Oasis, the big bad queen of the sand dragons. Right. Rawr! What is this tiny scavenger doing in this kingdom of sand? I'm not afraid of tiny scavengers. I should go out there and eat him in one bite. Glory started giggling so hard she had to lie down and cover her face with her wings. Even Tsunami was making faces like she was trying not to laugh. Clay swung his stalagmites into a circle. Squeak, 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 he shouted, and other annoying scavenger noises. I'm here to steal treasure away from a magnificent dragon. Not from me, you won't, Sunny said, bristling. She stamped forward, spread her wings, and raised her tail threateningly. Without the poisonous barb other sandwings had, Sunny's tail was not very menacing, but nobody pointed that out. Yeah! Clay shouted, lunging forward with his rock claw. Sunny darted out of the way, and they circled each other, feinting and jabbing. This was Clay's favorite part. When Sunny forgot about trying to act queenly and focused on the battle, she was fun to fight. Her small size made it easy for her to dodge and slip under his defenses. But in the end, Queen Oasis had to lose. That was how the story went. Clay drove Sunny back against the wall of the cave and thrust that fake claw between her neck and her wing, pretending it went right through her heart. Ah! Sunny howled. Impossible! A queen defeated by a lowly scavenger. The kingdom will fall apart. Oh, my treasure. My lovely treasure. She collapsed to the ground and let her wings flop lifelessly on either side of her. Ha ha ha, Clay said. And squeak, squeak, the treasure is mine. He scooped up the rocks and paraded away, lashing his tail proudly. Our turn, Tsunami said, jumping off the ledge. She hurried over to Sunny, clasped her talons together, and let out a cry of anguish. Oh no, our mother is dead, and the treasure is gone. But worst of all, none of us killed her. So who should be queen now? I was about to challenge her, Glory cried. She flapped her wings dramatically. I would have fought her to the death for the throne. I should be queen. No, I should be queen, Tsunami insisted. I am the eldest and biggest and would have challenged her first. They both turned to look at Starflight, hidden in the shadows. The black dragon looked as though he was trying to become even more invisible. Come on, Starflight, Tsunami said. Don't be a lazy. She cut herself just before saying Rainwing. The teacher said things like that all the time. If you don't study, you're no better than a Rainwing. What's the matter? Someone replacing your brains with the rain wings? Still sleeping? Anyone would think you were a rain wing.
Racist.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Oh my god. That is racist. Oh my god, you're calling... That's like the equivalent of just calling... I don't know if you want to say anything like that here. No.
Like, it seems like the Rainwing is the N-word of this universe. Like everything you would like in the like in like everything you would hear people say in America until like 1950s, 1960s, maybe even later. Like this is it.
Yeah.
It's horrible. That's great. No, because now I'm thinking about that meme. You know which one?
No, I don't. Like I said, I
Like
delved too much into furry because I ended up wanting a new Spyro game that bad.
there is this really old meme from like early night, like it was like a TV program in like the early 90s, and it's a clip from it, and it was like a PSA about like being tolerant or whatever, and there's this like little black kid with like front teeth missing because they're at the age where they're like losing the teeth and stuff, and they're like, that's racist, like lisping and all, you know.
I'm getting somewhat of a better idea, but you know what?
Yeah.
I still don't know.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Carry on.
Okay, yeah. So, but the Dragonettes all knew Glory hated it, no matter how much she pretended she didn't care. It also seemed really unfair. Glory was the only Rain Wing any of them had ever met, and she studied and trained harder than anyone else. Dragon. Tsunami finished awkwardly, with a quick glance at Glory. Starflight, get out here. The Night Wings shuffled forward and looked down at Sunny, who had her eyes scrunched shut. Oh dear, he said. Well, now I should be queen. As the youngest princess, I could have the longest reign. That would also be good for the Sandwings. Also, he paused and gave a long, suffering sigh. Also, I am by far the prettiest. Sunny giggled, and Tsunami poked to her to keep still. Clay swept his treasure rocks into a pile and sat on them. I should kill you both right now, Glory snarled. You and what army? Tsunami taunted here. Glory stretched her neck up and bared her teeth. That's a great idea. I'll go get an army of sea wings, and then you'll be sorry. You're not the only one who can make alliances, Tsunami said. I'll get the Sky Wings on my side, and the Mud Wings, and then we'll see who wins this war. And there was a pause. They both looked at Starflight again. Yeah, he said. You do that, and ally myself with the Ice Wing army. Also, by the way, most of the Sandwings want me to be their queen. They do? Sunny said, opening her eye. Who says? Stop talking, Tsunami said, poking her with one talon. You're dead. There are lots of recent scrolls about it, Starflight explained pompously. Blaze is very popular with her own tribe. So why can't she be queen? Sunny asks, if that's who they want. Because Burn is bigger and scarier and could crush her like a bug if they actually fought claw to claw. Glory chimed in. And Blister, that's me, is smarter than both of them put together. She knew she couldn't kill Burn in a regular duel. It was her idea to involve all the other tribes and turn their Sandwing throne battle into a world war. She's probably waiting for the other two to kill each other. Which one do we want to be queen? Sunny asked. We get to pick, right? When we fulfill the prophecy? None of them, Starflight said gloomily. Blaze is about as smart as a concussed sheep. Blister is most likely plotting something to become queen of all the tribes somehow, and if Burn wins, she'll probably keep the war going just for fun. They're all pretty nasty. I guess we'll see what the Talons of Peace decide. The Talons of Peace won't get to decide, Tsunami said, bristling. They only think they're in charge of us. We can still hear them out, Starflight argued. They want what's best for us and Imperia. Easy for you to say, Glory snapped. The ruff around her neck flared orange. You weren't stolen from your home. The Nightwings were pretty eager to hand over your egg, weren't they? Starflight flinched as she'd burned them. Boring, Clay shouted from his pile of rocks. Stop fighting with each other. Come fight me for this treasure island instead. No one knows what the scavenger did with the sand dragon treasure, Starflight said, in his top-of-the-class voice, turning away from Glory. Among other things, he stole the Lazu Light Dragon, the gold Sandwing Scepter, and the Eye of Onyx, which had been in the Sandwing treasury for hundreds of years. Clay stamped his feet. Starflight's lectures always made his scales itch. I just want to fight somebody, he said. Somebody who wasn't trying to beat him into a violent rage, preferably. As if the thought had summoned her, Kestrel suddenly loomed in the entrance of the cave. What is going on in here? Kestrel's booming voice made all 5 dragonets jump to attention. Sunny slipped as she tried to scramble to her feet, and Starflight jumped forward to catch her. The enormous red skywing slithered into the cave, glaring down at them. This doesn't look like studying, she hissed. We're sorry, Sunny stammered. No, we're not. Tsunami shot the examining with a glaze. We were studying. We were acting out the death of the queen that started the whole war. You mean play acting? Kestrel growled. You are too old for games. When were we ever young enough for the games? Glory muttered. It wasn't a game, Tsunami said. It was a different way of learning the history. What's wrong with that? And now you're talking back, Kestrel said. She looked smug, as she always did when Tsunami got in trouble. That means no sleeping in the river tonight, Tsunami scowled. Kestrel taps the pile of scrolls by the entrance with one claw. The rest of you, learn from the Sea Wing's mistakes and study the correct way. That's not fair. Clay spoke up as Kestrel turned to go, even though it made his heart pound. We were all doing the same thing. We should all be punished. Glory shook her head at him, but beside him, Sunny nodded. Kestrel stared down at Clay. I know who the ringleader was. Cut off the head, and the problem goes away. You're going to cut off Tsunami's head? Sunny squeaked. Glory sighed. It was a metaphor, feather brain. Now go to bed, Kestrel said. She turned and swept out of the cave, knocking over Starflight's neat stacks of scrolls as she went. Clay nudged Tsunami's dark blue shoulder with his snout. Sorry, we tried. I know. Thanks, Tsunami said, brushing her wing against his. Hey, Sunny, would you mind taking those scrolls back to our sleeping cave? The small gold dragon brightened. Sure, I could do that. She hurried to the entrance, gathered the scattered scrolls in her front talons, and whisked out of the cave. I can't stand this much longer, Tsunami said as soon as Sunny was gone. We have to get out of here, and soon. Clay glanced at Gloria and Starflight, who didn't look surprised. You talked to them about it? Of course, Tsunami said. I needed their help figuring out an escape plan. Clay couldn't help but notice that she hadn't asked him for any escape plan ideas. Even the dragons who liked him thought he was pretty useless. I'm not sure we're ready, Starflight said, wrinkling his forehead. There's so much we haven't learned yet. That's what the teachers want us to think. Tsunami's blue scales shifted as she shook herself from head to tail. But we'll never know until we get out of these horrible caves and see the world for ourselves. What about the prophecy? Clay asked. Shouldn't we wait 2 more years? I don't see why, Glory said. I'm with Tsunami. Destiny is destiny, right? So whatever we do must be the right thing. We don't need a bunch of ancient dragons telling us how to save the world. They're not in the prophecy. When do we tell Sunny? Starflight asked, glancing at the cave's dark opening. Not until the last minute, Tsunami said fiercely. You know she can't keep a secret. Starflight, promise you won't say anything to her. I won't. I won't, he said. She's not going to like it, though. She thinks everything is great here. Of course she does, Tsunami said. She doesn't care that we get treated like cracked eggs, even though we're supposed to be the key to peace or whatever. She cares, Starflight said defensively. She just doesn't whine about it. Youch, said Glory. Tsunami whirled to glare at Starflight, her gills pulsing. Say that to my face. I am saying this to your face, he said. Or was I saying it to your rear end? It's easy to get the two confused. He ducked behind Clay before Tsunami could even bare her teeth at him. Hey, stop. Quit snarling at each other like mini kestrels, Clay said, standing up to keep his bulk between Tsunami and Starflight. Nobody's happy here. Sunny deals with it differently, that's all. But remember what we decided. We five stick together or else everything gets worse, right? Starflight hunched his wings forward, muttering. Clay's right, Glory said. The last thing we want is to be like Kestrel or Webbs or Dune. Tsunami hissed for a moment, then shook herself. All right, I know. I'm trying. But this place is slowly killing me, she said. Clay shivered at the fierce look at her face. He would not want to be the dragon standing in her way. As soon as we have a plan, we go, Tsunami said, looking them each in the eye. Let's see them force our destiny on us when they can't find us anymore. And that's the end of chapter 2.
Nice.
So, that was it, huh? Got anything to say
I
about that?
must say, the more you're reading, the more your reading is improving. Your flow is improving.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was kind of curious as to whether or not you had anything to say about the book itself, though. I mean, you know what?
It's good. I like it.
All right.
I think because I haven't read a fiction book for God knows how many years, and I think if I would be, I've been wanting to get back into fiction, and I think this might be the book I will probably want to reread again after we're done with it, because there's just so many details to kind of take in
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure I have missed something, and I will want to get back to it. But I'm loving this universe so far. I like the premise.
You'd be surprised that
And
there's actually.
I
Yeah, what's up?
you first.
You'd be surprised that there's actually some fan games on Roblox.
Really?
Yeah.
For Wings of Fire.
Yep.
That's such an unlikely crossover.
Well, you know what the thing is, you don't play as the Roblox characters. You actually play as one dragon of your choice throughout the tribes.
Oh, really? And,
Yeah.
and they made made the player characters like actual dragons, not
Yes.
like Roblox block characters, but like dragons.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, that might actually get me into Roblox too.
Yeah. You know what? The thing is though, I'll say this much too. When it comes down to it, I'm not much of a guy to explore many games outside of VR chat or Spyro these days because you know what, I just you know don't really put myself towards any energy or any monetary kind of things because you know
Mm.
what, my hobby is actually more so well. It had been trying to collect dragon characters that reminded me of a potential expanded Spyro universe. And
Mhm.
you know what? I'd seen Spyro fans try to go ahead and tap into that.
Mhm.
I'd seen it
But
on Dark Spyro, I'd seen it on DeviantArt, and I'd actually seen some artists try to make their own original personal so-called franchises that are not really so much
wait,
franchises.
is Dark Spyro like a website for Spyro OCs and stuff?
Well, you know what? I recently made a thread in the fan art section for Spyro OCs and people trying to present their Spyro OCs. But you know what?
Mhm.
I am very late to the party. Honestly,
Okay.
nobody really thought to make a thread for Spyro OCs, or if they did, then you know what? The main administrator, Dark52, didn't really ever think of trying to pin that thread to go ahead and emphasize the importance of how we as fans would have liked an expanded Spyro universe.
Hmm. It's okay. It's never too late. Franchises get revived.
Yeah, but you know what? Right now, personal pet projects are the thing with the Spyro fans,
Mm.
and you know it's somewhat with Wings of Fire fans too. But the Wings of Fire pet projects are much more prosperous because you know what? There's a lot more lore in the first place to bank off of.
Yeah.
There's even the disciplined readers just being able to use their imagination much more effectively because, and of course, you know what? It's imagination that has to be fulfilled at that point.
Mm.
You can't just rely on what any of the publishers would have given you.
Yeah.
Although there is the visual novels. I think
Mm.
the visual novels are up to
Wait,
book
the
3 right
actual
now.
Spyro visual novels.
No, I'm talking about Wings of Fire at this point.
Oh, what? Oh, there are visual novels. Oh, okay.
If only there
That's
were
interesting.
visual novels for any interlude Spyro games or something like that. No, that wasn't the case. Honestly, as much as they could have tried with the Legend of Spyro, it's more so they understood that they need to fulfill a fan service that they just created with the New Beginning game, and that they did try with the Eternal Night, but it was rushed galore.
Oh no. Look,
And
when you said fan service, you know what that remind me of?
what did it remind you of?
You know this that there is this lady that has become famous or rather infamous for like drawing like very elaborate OCs and like head cannons and stuff of that one particular villain from Spyro, like that sort of Jack in the Box kind of villain from Spyro, and she's
Right.
like drawing comics like comic strips that she's in a relationship with him with like her own little
Hon-
self
Honestly,
insert
you know what?
OC.
There are but more Cinder fetishizers than you think.
Yeah.
To be honest, with you, I'm in a server right now that has had one just make the best. No. I swear to God, it's weirdly the best animation I've seen of Cinder drowning. But we're talking about an anthropomorphic model. What the fuck? It
Wait,
is
Cinder drowning was who again?
no Cinder. She's just
Oh,
drowning.
oh,
I thought you were talking about Cinder in the first place. Were you talking about Malifor? Because you know what, you said she.
I can't remember.
Because you know what, the most
It
iconic
might be her.
villain in the Legend of Spyro series would have been Cinder in the first place, but she's only a villain for one game because you go ahead and get her out of
No,
the
but like,
trance.
but Cinder is a dragon though, and that lady is drawing that one Jack in the Box villain. You know which one I mean?
Oh no! Just thank you for clarifying. It's
There,
not a dragon.
there's like so much material on her, even going beyond the Spyro fandom, because she has gained infamy just by doing like cringe fan art and some really questionable conduct and stuff. So it has kind of spilled over to like mainstream YouTube
Really?
because people just like to dig into her drama and like investigate it and stuff. It's very morbidly compelling.
Well, I'm curious about this too.
And it's like it's a really fringe kind of I don't know, interest within the fandom, and like she's like the number one Rule 34 creator on the internet for this one particular villain, and she's basically like inserting him as like her perfect boyfriend, and how she imagines him to like be in a relationship with her and like living with her in one household. And she has also drawn them, doing the deed. But like she also, even when he's in his human form, she still draws him without the legs. So from the waist down, he only has got like this giant spring.
Damn.
Yeah, like the rabbit hole just goes on and on and on and on. I'll send you the video, like one of the videos I have seen on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to listen to weird shit when I'm on the go or doing something. I'm weird like that.
You don't have to call yourself too weird, honestly. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, I think this is the wrong place to be calling yourself weird, because everybody here is some flavor of weird.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I ended up admitting something regarding a furry thing. Because, you know what? Look, here's the
Like,
thing.
funnily, it's not a big deal for me. Like, I don't get what the big deal about being a furry is. I'm like, we do have furries in Europe, and
I
I
mean,
guess like
there's
I
Eurofurence,
don't,
there's freaking, what is it? Nordic FuzzCon. I know those two. I've never been to either, though, because, you know what? Don't have any of that. Take myself abroad money.
to be honest, any kind of local equivalent of Comic Con or like a manga or anime con here is automatically also a furry con because
Yeah,
there isn't like much happening. So all the nerdy sort of, and like even the Marvel nerds with the anime nerds and like the furries, like everyone just kind of coexists in peace. And like even if there's like a book fair or something, people just whip out their costumes and like just go, because where else are you gonna wear it? And like also if you have like a fantasy kind of cosplay outfit that you want to wear, like people even whip them out to Ren fairs, honestly, or like medieval fairs. Like you sometimes, like sometimes there's like something going on in town because you see like they might have just like a general media, career, and literature fair, and you start seeing people during that week in like full on fursuits on the train, just commuting from one city to another casually, just taking the head off and just putting the head next to them and stuff. Like no one bats an eye. I actually met one good friend back in the day because she was like in her fursuit and stuff, and I started talking to her. I wonder where she is now. I haven't heard from her in like past, I don't know, 5 years or something. But yeah, because I used to be like very interested with like the furry subculture, but like I was living in a bit of a bubble where like no one was interested in it. And funnily enough, she just lived one town over, like literally just like 5 or 6 miles away from me. And it was kind of nice to realize that it's not as weird and it's not as niche as I had anticipated, because I literally thought that I'm the only one in my whatever region that I live in. And then I realized, like, once I met her, like I started seeing like furries casually in public more and more. And like I'm not counting my time when I lived previously to that, back in the UK, because in the UK like people were more open about being furries, and or like maybe not open but like visible, because here people are open too, but it's just not as much visibility. Whereas I think in the Anglophone sphere there is just more going on furry wise in general. So like we would have like people in dorms just displaying their flags and their posters on their apartment entrance doors and whatnot. So like it was very visible, or like coming to classes with like t-shirts and stuff with their persona. So you had all of that. You don't really have that here now, but I guess it's just that we don't have that many events. So like if you know furries in your life, you just know them, but like if you don't know any, then you might see them in public occasionally, but it's not like when you're at a uni or you're at a frat, because we actually do have like fraternities and sororities in Germany, but they're like very different to what the what the US is like, because like our fraternities and sororities, they're like very very conservative, very old fashioned. Like like they typically got founded in like 1700s or 1800s, and like they have like a code of conduct, and like they never strayed away from it. So like if you're in a frat or like in a sorority, you're not allowed to smoke weed. You're only permitted to drink alcohol for certain occasions and like in certain amounts. Like for example, if you're in a male fraternity, you have to be able to fence, and like if you like there's no hazing, but instead there's like an initiation ceremony, and like where you have to like recite some poems in Latin, and then you have to like challenge the best fencer in the fraternity to a fencing duel, and you have to I think you have to last like 3 rounds. Like for example, for my local uni, you have to last 3 rounds without losing, and then you get accepted. So like things like that. And like for female sororities, it's like you're not allowed to cuss because you're a lady. Like you for functions you always have to wear like a ball gown because you're a lady, and you know, things like that. So it's kind of like night and day if you compare it to like the sort of classic American fraternity sorority experience. And they're like also very sort of gender segregated. So like the the sororities and the fraternities don't really mix, and they're not supposed to be like, you know, with like casually around each other unless they're like already dating, unless there is like a function for the entire university where they're like where the both groups are invited and then they're mixing together. So it's like it's it's like completely the other end of the spectrum. So like it's not like there is like much space. Like for example, if you're at a uni and you're in a frat, you probably wouldn't be displaying, you know, your furry posters or something like that at a frat place, because it would be like, oh, you're a distinguished gentleman now and you have to act all gentlemanly. So like there isn't really space for that. Like people are not gonna lynch you or something, but it's just kind of considered in a bad taste to like display, like casually display some weeb shit, and people would be probably like, oh, there's not the time and place for that. But so there isn't like at colleges and universities and stuff, you don't really see it as much, whereas you kind of see it in public. And like actually some we don't really have that much of that princess gig as you have in the anglophone sphere, where like people dress up as Disney princesses and like go around to kids' birthday parties and stuff. But actually a lot of furries in Europe, from what I've heard, they get like side gigs for like whenever they are in public, some random parents ask them, oh, could you please come to my daughter's 6th birthday, because like she really likes snow leopards and you're a snow leopard and you're just you look so cool, like could you like come and, you know, be in character for 3 hours. So like that's pretty sweet, and I kind of always liked it. And like my friend, for example, had a couple of gigs like that. Like she's a wolf, and she has like her head has like, for example, a moving jaw. So like when she's speaking, like it kind of moves, and she also has like the squeaky paws. Like I don't know what it's really called, but like when you um when you like press the paw or like high five it, like it does the kind of honking sound. So like one time she spent half an hour just high fiving everybody because the kids wouldn't stop high fiving her. So like I would say there isn't that much like space for visibility and representation, but at the same time there isn't as much hostility against furries as you would see in the Anglophone world. So it's kind of like the situation that you have in America kind of flipped. Sorry if I'm talking too much.
To be honest with you, I decided might as well because you know what. Sometimes I actually kind of like to hear about the fandom overall, because damn, that's what I'm actually kind of thinking about sometimes. Why not try to go ahead and have these costumes in New York City itself, so that way we can go ahead and show the world, hey, you know what? We're not as dangerous as people could perceive the city. But then again, you know what? Sometimes I think everyone wants to still exude some kind of standard for the city. It's just
Yeah,
that.
but like when you have cosplayers just casually marching through the city, like you don't automatically assume them to be creeps. So like, why would people assume furries to be creeps? Like it never made sense to me. Like here it's more like in the 2000s and 2010s, like people were looking at it a bit weird, but more in a like, why would you dress up as an animal? And like a lot of people just ended up responding to like, look at the world right now. Wouldn't you rather be an animal sometimes? And like most, like even old people are like, huh, you have a point there. And actually, unironically, a lot of people have started like this. And they're like, oh, I met someone dressed up as dragon or whatever. And I asked them why they dress up as a fantastic creature. And they're like, oh, because reality is shit. And sometimes I just want to escape reality. And I thought, he has a point there. And then I started dressing up myself, and I was like, huh, yeah, it is helping. So yeah, it's kind of more like the assumptions are less that are not really that people who do it are creepy. It's more like that they're childish. But nowadays it's actually getting better. But I don't think furries were ever considered harmful here. It's more like, oh, you're already 15 or 18 or 25 years old. Why would you dress up as a people would say like a teddy bear or like a like a plush character? But it's not really where it's not like this sort of attitude that you have in the Anglophone world. Oh, hide your kids, hide your dogs, and like there isn't really any assumption of malice, which I'm actually very grateful for, because I never thought it was deserved.
You know what's funny is that sometimes I kind of wonder how often we in the United States are still going to have our stigmas, and for what though? I mean,
I
you know
mean,
what?
can I
Yeah, go on.
can I have a hot take? Like it's no offense to you personally, but for a nation that claims to be the most diverse and tolerant nation in the world, you guys do love to discriminate.
Yeah, you know, I agree. To be honest with you, I keep on forgetting how to go ahead and properly do anything to acknowledge. Well, the discrimination problem myself.
What do you
Sometimes
mean?
okay, okay, fine. I'll say this much. Okay, I like this homeless guy that panders in front of our store sometimes.
Mhm.
Zabars. He's black, but you know what? I have grown a little bit tired of trying to help him because of the fact that, well, the only thing I do is just give water to him. Sometimes he gets water on his own now,
Mhm.
and I kind of believe that maybe he might have a little bit of angst on me, a little bit, but you know what? It's just normal.
What do you?
Nah, I think it's just normal. He's just doing this like smug, not kind
My
of happy
fifth
smug,
language, so I'm.
not. Uh, look, all I'm gonna say is that
Pardon?
all I will say is that we still have a discriminating problem against blacks in our nation, especially other people of color. And
Mm.
you know what? Soy Latino Americano. I have that
Mhm.
little tan skin actually. That's actually in the middle of
Mhm.
whiteness and blackness. And you know what? Sometimes I kind of
Are
wonder.
you more white passing or more Latino passing in most people's eyes?
Sometimes I actually would be mistaken as a Muslim because I let my beards actually grow out that much.
Oh right.
I have to go ahead and make sure that I actually shave my beard a little bit so that
Yeah,
way.
just just don't just don't travel. Like shave before you fly.
Oh my god, ain't that the truth?
You laughed, but I kind of mean it.
All right.
As sorry as I am.
Yeah.
Just spare yourself the hassle. It will grow back. Or you can actually, you know what? I have actually watched the movie Dictator
What?
with someone 2 days ago. Have you seen it?
Not yet. I forgot that was a movie.
So you've seen it, right? So
Not yet. I said.
oh sorry. So without spoiling too much, you know that like the main character is like Sacha Baron Cohen's Dictator and stuff. So there's an arc where he loses his beard, and they have to find another beard, like a fake beard, for him to glue it back on.
Huh.
So that's what you can do.
Never really thought that
and
would.
then and then just detach it whenever you have to fly.
Never really thought that actually would. Okay, well, you know what? Look, I kind of do like a goatee that spread across my entire chin and the mustache at this point. But you know what? I actually have to catch up with my shaving because you know what? There's a little bit of a thin blanket on the rest of my chin, actually, and then you know what? I kind of like it in a way, but at the same time, well, if we were back in 1990, I could probably say three or something like that. So, you know what? This would actually someone with standards in Manhattan would actually go ahead and try to point out my beard at some point, and the way I
Hmm.
actually have it shaved and all. I mean, you know, I would even show it right now, but the fact of the matter is, I'm on a shadow PC, so there's a
What
cloud
does it
PC.
mean? Oh right, it's like a emulator.
Yeah,
Or
and
oh
I
right.
wouldn't be able to because I have no camera.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Ugh.
But you have a microphone.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, cool.
It's through my Oculus Quest right now.
Oh, right. Oh, so you're like you can like turn your head and you see it everywhere.
You know what? It's more so that I take a computer screen and then I just put it where I want, and then I go ahead and go from there.
Oh, that's why it's so tricky to turn sometimes.
Yeah, because you know what? I have stick drift on my right controller that I'm holding right now too, and you know what? At
Right.
that point, I'm kind of, you know what? Screw it. My left controller can work just fine.
Mm.
All right, let's see. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just start on chapter 3 now. All right.
If you need a breather, let me know.
Yeah. All right. Suddenly, there was a thundering crash from the central cave. Clay heard the entrance boulder slam back into place, and then the rumble of heavy footsteps. From the extra squish flap sound of them, he knew that it must be webs. Something's happening, Tsunami, he said. She hurried to the door, her ears twitching and the spiny ridge along her back standing straight up. We have to go listen. Starflight spread his wings slowly. I'm sure we'll find out what the fuss is in the morning. I don't want to wait that long. Tsunami spun around to jab his underbelly with her tail, and he tipped toward backward with a grunt. Don't be a smoke breeder. Let's go.
Those insults.
No, but you know what? Honestly, I kind of thought of don't be smoking. She whirled out of the cave.
Yeah. Don't be a stoner.
Yeah,
It's like a
exactly.
subliminal message. Subliminal
Don't do
messages in the book.
drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
Not even once.
Clay winced as his sore muscles sprang into action. He followed Glory into the central cave. Glory's scales were already changing to match the mottled old gray and black rocks. In a moment, she'd be nearly impossible to see. Starflight slipped past to join her, and the two of them hurried away toward the tunnel that led to the big dragon's cave. They vanished almost immediately into the shadows. Hidden by their coloring, they'd get as close as they could to eavesdrop, but Clay and Tsunami had an even better shot at hearing everything if they hurried. Tsunami was already charging across the cave to the river. What about Sunny? Clay called quietly. He could hear the little sandwing rummaging around in her sleeping cave, putting scrolls away. We'll come up with something to tell her later. Tsunami hissed back. Clay felt sorry that Sunny was the only one who didn't know about their spying games, but they'd learned their lesson about trusting her with secrets years ago. Sunny had meant to tell Dune about the pile of rocks the Dragonets were collecting. Their plan was to build a tower to the sky hole back when they were too small to fly. They'd only wanted to stick their heads out and look around. But one day Sunny forgot to be careful around Dune, and the next day they'd all the collected rocks were gone from their hiding place. That was the end of that plan, and of Sunny getting to know anything. Tsunami disappeared into the river with a nearly soundless splash. The pale green flecks under her dark blue scales shimmered as she swam upriver. Clay dove in after her, wishing he could see in the dark like she could. At least she'd remember to activate the glow in the dark stripe along her tail. Mudwings couldn't breathe underwater like sea wings, but they could hold their breath for more than an hour. So, whenever the Dragonets wanted to spy on their guardians, Clay and Tsunami could use the river to get closer than the others. She caught up to the sea wing as she was wriggling through the underwater gap in the cave walls. It made Clay nervous every time, squeezing through such a small space. He wished he hadn't eaten that extra cow at dinner. His claws scrabbled on the rocks, catching in the crevices. There was a brief, terrifying moment as his midsection got stuck. Would he drown down here? Would the prophecy be ruined because of an extra cow? Then, with a whoosh of bubbles, he popped through and shot after Tsunami. Her tail stripe went
You're cutting
dark
off.
as they swam quietly into the Guardian's cave. The three older dragons hardly paid any attention to the river, except for Webbs, who sometimes slept in the shallows. It would never occur to them that two pairs of dragonette ears might be poking out of the river, listening. Clay drifted to a stop near the entrance while Tsunami swam to the far side of the room. That way, at least one of them could hear, no matter where the minders were talking. Tonight, however, Clay was pretty sure everyone could hear everything, including Glory and Starflight in the passageway outside. From the way Kestrel was shouting, it was possible even the Skywings up in the mountain peaks could hear her. Coming here? With no warning? After 6 years, suddenly he's interested? A jet of fire shot out of her snout and blasted the nearest rock column. Maybe he wants to make sure they're ready to stop the war, Webb suggested. Dune snorted. These dragonettes? Then he's going to be disappointed. He eased himself into a flat boulder, stretching his four-leg stump and mangled wing toward the fire. The big sandwing dragon never discussed his scars or how he lost his foot, but the dragonettes could guess from the anger in his voice whenever he talked about the war. The fact that he couldn't fly was probably why he was chosen for underground dragonette's minding duty. He clearly wasn't picked for his warm, nurturing personality. We've done our best, Webb said. The prophecy chose these dragonettes, not us. Does he even know what happened? Kestrel demanded. Does he know about the broken egg and the rainwing? Or the defective sandwing? Clay winced. Poor Sonny. He floated closer, keeping his belly ground length below the surface of the dark water. Through the ripples he could see the blurred shapes of the large dragons gathered around the fire. Webb flapped his wings. I'm not sure what he knows or why he cares. The message just said Marosier is coming. I'm supposed to meet him and bring him here tomorrow. Marosier. That sounded familiar. Clay racked his brain. A dragon from history class? One of the tribe rulers? No, it couldn't be. All the tribes were ruled by queens. I'm not worried about Sunny, Dune said. We followed the prophecy's instructions. It's not our fault she's the way she is. But the Rainwing, he's not going to be like that. Deep growl rumbled in Kestrel's throat. I don't like it either. I never have. Glory's not that bad, Webb argued. She's smarter than she wants us to know. You overestimate her because you brought her here, Dune said. She's lazy and worthless like the rest of her tribe. And she's not a Skywing. Kestrel snapped. We're supposed to have a Skywing. Clay wished Glory didn't have to hear all this. The Guardians never hid how they felt about her, and she never acted like she cared. But he wished he could tell her she was just as important and smart as any Skywing. Well, I never thought Morosier would come look at them, Webb said. After he dropped off Starflight's egg, I assumed we'd never see him again. The Nightwings have nothing to do with the war. So he's a Nightwing, which means superpowered and mysterious and full of himself. That was all Clay could remember about Nightwings. He found himself actually wishing he could get a lecture from Starflight. The epic wonderfulness of Nightwings was the Black Dragonette's favorite topic. Did the talents say what he wants? Kestrel asked. Well, it's his prophecy, Webb said. I guess he wants to make sure it'll actually come true. Morosier. Clay felt a jolt run through him, like the stinging shock he sometimes got when Dune whacked him with his barbed tail for not paying attention. Morosier was the Nightwing who had spoken to Dragonette prophecy 10 years ago. They had learned about him in history, but it was one of many facts Clay could never remember. Who had delivered the prophecy never seemed as important as who was in the prophecy. But maybe Marosier was more important than Clay has realized. After all, he was coming to see them. Perhaps he would take them out into the world. Perhaps they didn't need to escape after all. Perhaps everything was about to change. That was a quick chapter.
Oh, that was. I looked away for a minute, just listening to you, and now it's the end.
Hey, you know, don't worry too much
I
about
was
it.
listening all along, though. It's not like, yeah, I'm still following.
Mm,
It's just 1 a.m. here, and it's hard to keep looking at the screen.
Oh, you know what? I don't blame you. Honestly,
So, if you want a breather, like, I can do. How long is this chapter?
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25. Huh.
Oh shit.
I mean, do you have to do anything in your daylight?
I have work tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's going to make it a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
But you know what? How about this? Let's have you read. You're going to try 6 or 8 of the pages.
I'll try 8. It's
Okay.
not much.
So,
It's not much of the text.
how about this?
Okay.
You ready to start?
Mm-hmm. Chapter 4. Clay had never really believed the legends about Nightwings. Secretive dragons who could read minds? A hidden kingdom that no one could find? A mystery queen, the power to see the future, the way they appeared from darkness to deliver prophecies that shaped the world. It all sounded like fairy tales, about as likely as a world ruled by scavengers instead of dragons. Hang on, let me turn my. Besides, Clay knew Starflight, and Starflight was many things: annoying, long winded, smart, too serious. But he had no magical powers, and he was never, ever scary. But the next evening, when a dragon black as a bottomless pit loomed out of the shadows of the entrance tunnel, Clay felt all the rumors about the rock wall. Marussia was even bigger than Kestrel, and 5 times more terrifying. He spread his jagged bat-like wings, and peered down at the dragonets lined up in front of him. He had silver scales like stars on the underside of his wings, like Starflight did. But on him, they seemed to glitter from a great distance and cast a cold glow. He looked like he could easily rip off each of their heads in one bite. He also looked like he already hated the 5 dragonets, which wasn't what Clay had expected at all. Were they such a disappointment already? Maybe Marussia was reading their minds and knew how confused they were about the prophecy. Or maybe he was seeing the future, and his visions were all of failure, failure, failure. Clay could feel Sunny trembling at his side. He felt the same way, petrified in place, as if his scales were being slowly peeled off, one by one, while the giant Nightwing inspected them. On the other side, Starflight was more still than Clay had ever seen him. Starflight always froze when he was frightened. It was as if he hoped that by not moving he'd disappear from view, and the danger could pass right by. Clay couldn't see Glory, but he knew when Monorsia saw her. The huge black dragon stared down at the rain-winged dragonet for a small eternity. His snout twitched with ripples of disgust. A forked black tongue slipped over his teeth. Clay wished his own wings were as vast as the cavern itself, so he could hide his friends from the Morosier. He wished his talons were as huge as the stalagmites and as sharp as the rock shards. He wished he were big enough to be brave and brave enough to be big. Oh, that's actually a beautiful quote. Hang on, let me screenshot it. He'd never wanted anything so much as he wanted to protect his friends from this tall, hissing, scornful, immensely dangerous dragon. Thanks for highlighting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
He really, really hoped that Morosia wasn't reading his mind right then. Think about cows, think about cows, think about cows, think about delicious fat cows. Morosia pivoted his head slowly to glare down at Kestrel. He lifted one long claw and pointed at Glory. What is that? He said, his voice loaded with enough venom to kill 20 dragons in mid-flight. Starflight took a step back, and Clay saw Glory. She was sitting on her haunches, with her long tail curled over her talons. Sorry, question what are haunches?
I
Oh,
I think
the dragon
it's
butt.
got it's yeah, it's got to be a dragon bottom. Yeah.
Oh, learned a new word. Trails of violet and gold chased each other through her scales. Only the shades of flame around her feathery ears hinted that she was upset. She stared calmly back at Morosia. There was an accident, Kestrel said. We lost the Skywing egg, so we had to get another one somewhere. From the Rain Wings? Morosia interrupted scathingly. It was his idea, Kestrel snarled, whipping her tail towards Webb's. He brought her egg here. At least we have 5 dragonets, said Webbs. That's what matters. Morosia peered down his long black snout at Glory. His eyes shifted to Sonny, who let out a tiny squeak and sank a little lower toward the ground. More like 4.5, he grunted. Are you supposed to be the Sandwing? Don't you eat? What's wrong with you? Oh, here comes the racism again. There was a long, horrible pause while Sonny tried to squeak out an answer to something this racist.
God damn. Okay.
She does, Tsunami blurted. She eats fine, as much as anyone. It's not her fault she's small, Starflight chimed in, to Clay's surprise. She's a good fighter, Clay said. And so is Glory. Stop talking now, Morosia said, and silence dropped over them. His sharp, menacing gaze landed on Clay. Think about cows, think about cows, think about cows. The tall Nightwing turned to the 3 guardians. Something has gone very wrong here. Yes, Tsunami burst in again. It has, and I can tell you what. We're treated like prisoners. We've never been outside these caves, not once. All we know about this world we're supposed to save is what we've learned in scrolls. We're supposed to be the world's most important dragonets. Oh, sorry, most important dragonets. But those 3 treat us like blind salamanders. Claire couldn't believe it. Wasn't she scared of the Morosia too? Tsunami, hold your tongue, Dune snapped. I will not, she cried. Please get us out of here, she said to Morosia. Take us away with you. Please don't, Clay thought. I mean, think about cows, think about cows. Now that he'd seen the Nightwing, he'd rather stay trapped here. Ungrateful lizard, Kestrel growled. Without warning, Morosia lunged at Tsunami. His teeth flashed like bright white lightning, darting toward her neck. It really is like the night sky falling on you, Clay thought, and then discovered he was moving too. He flung himself at the Nightwing's huge ridged back before he could stop to think about what he was doing. His claws sunk into the small gaps between the shifting black scales, scrabbling for a hold. His tail thrashed as he tried to balance. Below him he saw Tsunami rolling away and spinning to fight back. Her blue talons slashed at Morosia's nose and underbelly. Clay tried frantically to remember his battle training. He flattened himself along the big dragon's back, snaked his neck forward, and bit down as hard as he could. Ow! His jaw exploded with pain, and he reared back. In the black-on-black scales, it was impossible to find a weak spot. Morosia jumped away from Tsunami and shook his whole body violently. Clay lost his grip and went flying through the air. He landed with a jarring thud, sliding halfway into the river. As he staggered to his feet, he saw Tsunami and Morosia facing each other in battle positions. Morosia made a grinding noise deep in his throat. He stepped back and swung his tail around into view. Clinging to Morosia's tail, her teeth firmly planted in the vulnerable spot near the end, was Sunny. Clay wished he'd remembered about that spot, which every dragon had, no matter which tribe they were from. Ha! Morosia rumbled. That's a surprise. He pried Sunny loose from his front talons, as if she were just a tiny insect. That one will do, Morosia said, pointing at Tsunami. None of the big dragons had moved at all as he attacked their charges. Neither had Glory. Neither had Starflight. Clay staggered up beside his Nightwing friend, who was doing an excellent imitation of a stalagmite. Starflight lowered his head and avoided Clay's. And that one will do, Morosia nodded at Clay. Kestros nodded. The Nightwing approved of him? Clay was confused. It wasn't as if Clay's attack had done any good. Even when Clay was defending his friend, he couldn't get angry enough to drag out his inner monster. But he was brave and he was courageous and he was loyal. And he's our cutie pie. Couldn't Morosia hear everyone thinking about how Clay was going to let them all down? This one, Morosia studied Sunny, from her harmless tail to her weirdly golden scales and moss green eyes. We'll have to see. We followed the prophecy, Dune insisted. She wasn't in a clutch of eggs. I found her egg alone, buried out in the desert, just like the prophecy said. The Guardians never talked about where they got the dragonet's eggs. Sunny stared at Dune hopefully, but he fell silent under Morosia's dark eyes. As for you, Morosia said to Starflight, I assume you used your Nightwing powers to figure out that I wasn't going to harm the Sea Wing. Perhaps you even had a vision of my visit today. Oh, they give visions. Ah, yeah, right. No doubt you already know that I'm going to take you into the next cavern for a private conversation. FBI, that's one right here.
God damn.
Get the
You're
wee
funny. Oh my god, you are so lovely.
Oh. Clay shuddered. A private conversation with Morosia sounded about as much fun as having his ears roasted. #me too. He did not envy Starflight as the two Nightwings slithered toward the study room. Morosia paused in the archway, and looked back at the Guardians. We'll talk about her later. He didn't look at Glory, but everyone else did. She flicked her ears and lifted her chin a little higher as Morosia's footsteps faded away down the tunnel. What does that mean? Clay worried. What was there to talk about? Stupid Sea Wing. Kestrel shot across the cave and struck Tsunami's snout. Complaining to the first strange dragon you see, trying to make us look bad. whining about your life after all we've given up for you. If you hate this too, why don't you let us go? Tsunami shot back. This is for your safety, Webbs interjected. His voice was gentler than Kestrel's, but Clay could tell he was angry from the way his long blue-green tail lashed on the floor. That's what all this is for. The talons of peace need you to survive long enough to fulfill the prophecy. You have no idea how many dragons would love to get their claws on you, Five. Or what they would do to you if they did, Dune growled. Our job is to keep you alive, Kestrel said. Or else I'd have strangled you myself a long time ago. Great, Tsunami said. Well, it's been a terrific life. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Kestrel made the hissing, fire-is-coming noise. Clay grabbed Tsunami's tail and tugged her back towards the river. We are grateful, Sunny said, jumping in front of Kestrel. She stood up on her back legs, not even half the red dragon's size. Her golden ears twitched. We would much rather be alive than not alive. We're glad you keep us that way. Really, we are. Come on, Webb said. He prodded Kestrel and Dune towards the cave. We need to talk. Now, he has something to say, Kestrel grumbled as the three of them clambered over the broken stalagmites. Tsunami threw herself into the river and sank to the bottom in a stream of furious bubbles, where she curled up with her talons over her head. It got very quiet in the cave. Sunny and Clay exchanged glances, then looked over at Glory. The Rainwing was sitting in the same spot, with her tail still neatly curled around her feet. She yawned. Clay wished he could ever be that calm. It was as if nothing bothered her at all. Are you all right? Clay asked. He came around and sat in front of her, studying her face. Sunny sidled up beside Glory, brushing her violet wings with her own smaller golden ones. Of course, Glory said. I mean, we knew that was going to happen. It's not like the Minders have been talking about how awesome I am this whole time. But you are, Clay said. Glory tilted her head at him. Awesome, he insisted. They just don't see. They see a Rainwing, she said with a shrug. I don't care. It's their own fault for bringing me here. Why didn't you fight Morosia when we did? Sunny asked. Then maybe he'd know how brave and fierce you are too. Why bother? Glory said. It was obviously a test, and I had already failed. A splotch of sky blue scales on her back paused, and then the color began to spread across her other scales, eating up the purple and gold. Oh, that's so cool. Well, we don't care what the prophecy says or what Morosia thinks, Clay said stoutly. You're our fifth dragonet. We don't want anyone else. Glory gave him a rueful look. That's very sweet. She yawned again. I'm going to take a nap. You and I, girlie, you and I. Now, Sunny said, alarmed. Is that a good idea? Glory fell asleep every day, usually after lunch for a couple of hours. But Clay had expected her to stay awake while Morosia was around. He knew he wouldn't want the big dark dragon to catch him sleeping. He glanced at the tunnel to the study room, wondering uneasily how far the Nightwing's telepathy reached, and whether he could read Clay's mind through rock. Hang on, I need to get something to drink. I'm tired, Glory snapped. And they all think I'm lazy anyway. Nothing I do can change that. Clay knew Glory wasn't lazy. She worked harder than everyone at battle training and learning the Dragon War's history. Even though none of the big dragons ever noticed. She just had to nap in the middle of the day, probably for some Rainwing reason. Although it didn't seem to help. Glory was just as prickly and tired after napping as she was before. Wake me if anything exciting happens, Glory said. But make sure it's actually exciting, not Sunny exciting. She gave Sunny a friendly nudge with her snout, and the Sandwing squeaked in protest. I don't think everything is exciting, Sunny flapped her wings, but you guys don't think enough things are exciting. Again, relatable. Think of it this way, Glory said. Time to leave the caves and fulfill the prophecy? Exciting. You caught another weird-looking white crab in the river? Not exciting. Got it? She poked Sunny again, uncurled her tail, now fully blue, and slipped inside her sleeping cave. Sunny blinked at Clay. I know, he said. That last crab was really weird looking. It was, wasn't it? She said. I wouldn't have minded if you'd woken me up to see it, Clay added kindly. Well, good, she said. I know. That's why you got to eat half of it instead of anyone else. She headed for her favorite stalagmite and started to climb it, hooking her claws in the holes that dotted the bulbous shape. Ooh.
Why
Clay
the
clambered.
ooh?
Cause like it sounded very boom chicka wow wow.
What?
Like if I were to see a TikTok of like this passage, I would think it's a completely different kind of book. Hang
What?
on.
Oh my god,
I
you are
said what I
naughty.
said, okay? I said what I said.
Oh wow. Naughty,
Okay.
naughty girl.
Aren't we all? This, there was this one post on Healthy Gamer subreddit where like one of the mods was speaking up and he was like, guys, just a heads up so that you know what you're signing up for. If you really want to join our Discord, like if you really, really want to join it, right? Just keep in mind 99% of them are degenerates. It
Yeah,
was it was like 2 years ago. I don't know if you've seen it, but like I've seen it like this year, and when I was trying to research how to join the Discord, I was like, right.
to be honest, I
Well,
wouldn't even know what server you're talking about because there's too many to actually join.
no, I mean like the general Discord server,
What?
like the whole the
Oh,
whole
I
fucking
see how you're
thing.
talking about it now. Oops.
I don't know the right nomenclature. Like I said, I'm a boomer.
Fair enough.
It makes me like whenever I'm on Discord, it makes me feel even older because I just fucking I'm so clueless navigating it.
Look, don't
But
worry about it too much. I mean, you know what? If it makes you feel any better, some of the Discord app has actually been engineered by bronies.
makes sense. Makes absolute sense. Why haven't I why haven't I gotten this idea earlier?
Yeah, you know what? The way I got
Now it
this
kind of
idea is that I ended up getting a moon video in my feed at one point, and you know what? The whole thing about it is that,
a
yo,
moon. What?
moon, moon, moon. Okay, it's like this.
Like the sun and the moon?
No, it's just called Moon, a channel that ends up being pragmatic on how internet culture or American culture or any kind of that Western industrialized culture has actually been affected in the modern day or postmodern day, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And he actually ended up going about Discord and why he actually doesn't really like Discord. And you know what?
On Discord.
No, he.
But
It's just
he
like a
was doing it
whole.
on Discord.
No. No.
Okay, okay,
Generally,
okay.
he was actually reviewing Discord and the discourse that actually can go on in the dark side of Discord. But you know what? The first
Right.
thing he cites is that when it comes down to Open Faint, the founders' predecessor app for anyone being social through video games,
Mm,
it's that he ended up outsourcing some of the logistics to Japanese people. This time with
mm-hmm.
Discord, he ended up apparently outsourcing some of the logistics to furries just to cheap it out. Just
So furries or brownies? Or both?
well, you know what? I end up saying bronies because you know what? There's a dragon in the My Little Pony universe, actually called Discord as well.
Well, there you have it.
Exactly.
Why does it all track so perfectly? It's like there is this meme, like this stereotype of the neckbeard Discord mod, like meow for me kitten and a milady and all that jazz, and he's always a brony.
Yo. That is
What?
crazy.
You didn't know? Like I would say it's a pretty mainstream meme.
I'm not that much into meme culture. I really have to admit, I'm sorry, okay? You know what? Like I said, I'm just a guy who likes to try chasing down my Twitter feed as close to Spyro like dragons as possible. Like, you know what? There's a French artist actually I still follow without her knowing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? There's actually look. I'm gonna go to just DM you a sticker that would give you a short preview, a small preview.
Okay.
I had an accidental otherkin crush you thanks to this goddamn piece of work.
Rise from the depths.
Yeah, it's
I
work by.
I cannot make it bigger. It's a sticker.
It's because it's a sticker. Yeah, you know what? Like I said, it's a preview. But
Mm-hmm.
she made that when she was still in her late teens. This French.
Impressive.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Okay, well, I gotta go ahead and just get back to the reading now. Okay, maybe this might be the last chapter at this point.
Okay, we got stuck at the bulbous shape.
Yeah.
Badumts.
Clay clambered up the rocks beside her. Hey, Sonny, he said, what would you think about running away? She paused and looked at him with shocked Green's eyes. You mean leaving the caves without our guardians? Oh no, we couldn't. We have to do what the prophecy says. Do we? He asked. I mean, we do, he said quickly as she nearly lost her grip on the stalagmite in surprise. But what if the Talons don't understand the prophecy any better than we do? Maybe we need to get out and stop the war our own way. Sunny settled on top of the stalagmite and coiled her tail around it, balancing on her back legs. She reached up toward the stalactites that were poking sharply from the top of the cave. I don't think that's a good idea, Clay. If we just follow the prophecy, everything will be all right. Sneezed. Her claws battle batted up at the tip of the lowest stalactite, but she was still too small to reach it. She sat back down with a frustrated sigh. Clay glanced at the soft blue glow coming from Glory's cave. Followed the prophecy, but he couldn't help thinking that a real prophecy would have included Glory. What if the prophecy was wrong? And that's the end of chapter 4.
Dum 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 Oh, that was all the chapter 4.
Yep.
Oh, that went quicker than I thought.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Hang on, what time is it in New York? Is it like 6? No, it's like 8 p.m.
It's going to be 8 p.m. soon, actually. You know what? It's 6 hours off.
Yeah.
You have 1 hour 28 minutes, and I got 19:28.
Yeah, it's 1:30 here. How do you feel about reading another 4 or 5 chapters tomorrow?
Yeah, you know, I could actually like that.
Just we've been at it for like the solid past 2 or 3 hours, maybe more.
Yeah.
I think more.
Oh my god, that was quite. Yeah.
It was a good run though.
Anyway,
And we are like 1/7 of the book along the way. 1, 2,
I forgot
3.
about in sevenths and that kind of fashion. That kind of division
Yeah,
is
we're like 15% in.
18 says, but you know what? Hey,
Like when you see the axis, it's actually easier to estimate it as 1/7 rather than to calculate it into percent, because then you would have to break it up into 20ths and
oh,
then have 3 of them. And I think that would be visually harder to visualize than just
I never
7
thought
parts.
about that.
Oh, that's just how my brain works.
Well, anyway, I guess that's how we go at this point. You know what? We're done.
What time are you gonna join tomorrow?
I don't know yet. I just know that it's going to be sometime in the afternoon because I'm off from work.
Okay, that works for me too. Because I'll be off work in the evening, so it works.
Yeah. Okay, well, good night to you, okay?
Yeah, cheers, good night to you too. Sleep well.
Yeah.